and to be cutting edge, to take us to the next level to where we really can do something nice. And so that's what I've been connecting with this week.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric. We look forward to getting all of that material in a form that will be really useful. Okay, I'm going to try to stay on as long as I can, everyone. If they grab me to come out, go ahead and complete the meeting on your own. So this is We Rotarian new member, Jeff Howard. And Jeff, we're looking forward to hearing from you. We're guessing you're in Denver, Colorado. Is that right?
That is correct. I'm at home in Denver today.
Great. So take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, and thanks everyone for listening to me. I would have hoped that some of the stories I tell would be better with pictures, but unfortunately today I do not have the pictures to show you. But I will do some lifting of some photos, and hopefully that works out. And you know, one of the things that I wanted to focus on and what excites me about this particular Rotary Club is the international aspect of it, and it's been international has been something that, quite frankly, when I was growing up in Ohio, you know, you kind of wished for, but the world was a big, wide open place, and we didn't travel much. I'm one of 9 kids, and so you know, it wasn't a lot of going outside of Ohio for our family, but at the same time, I remember in high school taking my first foreign language class, which was French. And so I always thought that I would become fluent in French, and that never happened. But I enjoyed that aspect and thought that was really cool, learning a new language. And I've always been somewhat interested in the world. So, you know, for me, when I think about, you know, the global aspect and what we're trying to do as a group in terms of connections and also in terms of world peace. I'm going to just kind of tell you maybe some stories about how I've gotten to where I am and perhaps why I approach things the way that I do from an international perspective. But when I went off to college, I went to Ohio University, and the first person I met was still my dearest friend in the world. His name is Christian Knowles, and Christian was from the Bahamas. And I don't know why a Bahamian would be coming to Ohio to go to school, but he was there, and we developed this great friendship. But as a guy who had never traveled, I had the opportunity to travel to the Bahamas with Christian over the summer. And when I spent time there, his family had a carpet cleaning business, and at the time, Christian wanted to be a craw fisherman, and so he asked me if I would help with the family business and drive around the workers. And obviously keen to do whatever in the Bahamas, I was fine with that. But the gentleman that he had working for him, the young men that were there, they were all Haitian. And so to be in the Bahamas, but be now in the midst of a group of men that were Haitian, that quite frankly were living in some really less than stellar condition, really affected me mightily. I also was very disappointed in myself at that point that I didn't speak French, because obviously they did. But you know, we figured out ways to communicate. But that really, you know, opened my eyes to the magnitude of maybe some of the problems that exist in the world, but then also because of becoming friends with those individuals, how much we're alike, you know, as well, and how big that is. So having that experience in the Bahamas opened my mind to saying that, you know, this is a big wide world out there, and that brought me out to Colorado. I convinced my parents that I would finish school, and I moved out to Colorado. And I myself, you know, tell you that I've had a fortunate career. I've you know, had the opportunity to work in professional sports. I worked for the Denver Broncos for a period of time. I went to school for television, and I was able to do that and be on TV, so I was able to check that off. I got to run a collegiate PR program. I was a spokesperson for the NCAA, and so, you know, just great things that I was able to do. However, you know, nothing beat the fact that I was able to luckily fall into the Olympic movement. which is a movement that is near and dear to my heart. I am one who looks at the Olympic Games and the Olympic movement as just an absolute force for positive change if done the right way. I am not a believer. I think that winning the medals and winning the gold medal and all that is absolutely fantastic, but I don't think that is the best part of the Olympic Games. I think it's the stories that come out. I think everybody here probably, and I would tell the athletes when I did media training, I would say, everybody's got an Olympic moment, and I think that we all here probably have, that moment where we think about, oh, that was really cool. Or it is also the one thing where, as a family, you'd sit down with your grandmother, your grandfather, and and your mom, and your dad, and you'd watch gymnastics or whatever it is. So it's also one of those sports movements that brings the family together, and it's just really cool. So I have been fortunate to be able to have worked 6 Olympic Games. I've also worked World University Games. My first World University Game was in Beijing, China, just after they were awarded the 2008 Games. So that was in 2001 when over there, and then also worked the Pan American Games in Rio, Brazil, and obviously Rio's the next games up on the docket there, and it's fabulous for that country to be able to host the games, first time in South America. So, just absolutely great to be a part of the Olympic movement. But the thing that made it great, though, was at least for me, there were times that things would just bring you to tears. And I'm a crier, and so just the notion that you're experiencing different things, and I just want to bring up a couple because you perhaps might remember them. My first games was in 2000, and Kathy Freeman was a 400-meter runner for Australia who was an Aborigine, Aboriginal descent, and you could just tell the pressure that was on her to win, for our country, and just the hype and all those things, and to be in that stadium and to see her come around and actually win, you couldn't help but kind of get teared up, with her, and then I was down there for 2 months, and I did the Paralympic Games, and as a part of that, I got a chance to march in the opening ceremonies. Now I'll bring in photos, and you won't be able to see it, but there's a photo of a marching in the opening ceremonies there of those games. But what was great, what was so wonderful about the Paralympics afterwards was that was an opportunity for the Australian people, the general public, to really go to the games, because the Olympic Games were so expensive and tickets were so hard to come by that a lot of folks were able to take their families to the Paralympic Games. But I remember walking through in that opening ceremonies and just being touched at how this country rallied around this event. And they had these kids that were part of the opening ceremony, and they were all in the middle of the field. So when the Australian team came in, and you can imagine just places going absolutely nuts, and the athletes are coming around the track, and we're sitting in the stands at that point, and these kids start sort of breaking away, one after another, and running up and high-fiving, the athletes, and then running back, and then another one did. And finally, it was just the sheer numbers of kids just couldn't take it anymore, and they wanted to hug these athletes and be a part of it. So they're running across the track. So of course I'm just bawling in the stands because it's so touching to see. So yeah, that was great. And then what I love about this movement too, and the international aspect, is because you can root. You don't have to root for your country. You can root for just the individuals that have gone through a lot. So I've got 3 favorite Olympians, and one is Nadia Comaneci from Romania, because that was like the first games that I sort of remember, and seeing her do the perfect 10 on the parallel bars, I think it was, and so she was great. So she was one, that my first one, and then Edwin Moses was a 400-meter hurdler, or is a 400-meter hurdler. And he was from Dayton, Ohio, where I'm from, and I ran the hurdles because of Edwin, and I'm about 4'2", so no one told me that you needed to be a lot taller to run the hurdles, but he was my hero, so I did that. And then the other person is El Garouche from Morocco, and El Garouche is somebody that I just love and respect so much as an Olympian, because I remember in 1996 he was the favorite to win the gold medal in the mile, and he had won the world championships up there, and I remember watching on TV in Atlanta, and he didn't win. It was going to be his country's first gold medal, and he didn't win. And I thought, oh, that's really sad. But then as we're going up to 2000, he had won all the championships and things again. He's the #1 runner, and now I'm in Sydney and I'm at the games, and El Garouche is running. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this guy from '96. He's a good guy, and again he's favorite, and he doesn't win again. Just incredible. And so now 4 years later, in 2004, we're in Athens, and there again, and El Garouche hadn't won. He wasn't the favorite any longer, and he wins 2 gold medals. And to be there to see that, but just to remember, from 1996, I've been following this guy, and to see him do that was fantastic. But as an aside to that story, I was in Olympia, Greece, for some meetings, and we were sitting and we're eating in this dining hall in the Olympic Academy, and someone looks over and says, "Hey, there's El Garouche," and I'm like, "Where?" They're like, "Yeah, right over there." It's like, that's my guy. I mean, El Garouche, yeah. So I get up and I go stumbling over there, and I just start blabbering like an idiot, just let him go. And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm a stalker. And then it just occurred to me, it's like, oh my goodness, he speaks French. I just can't be, rapping it on. But I had a chance to meet and take a photo with El Garouche, so that was a highlight. And then the only other story I'll tell you, is 2012. So I've worked for the U.S. team for all the games up through 2008, and in 2012 I was invited to work for the British Olympic team, and I should tell you, I had the best job at the Olympic Games. So my job was, prior to the games, to do the media training for the athletes, to tell them kind of what's going to happen. So they're all excited. Here's the number of media, and this is what we're going to do, and I was going to go for it. But then my job at the games was called Managing Victory. It was a program we developed in the U.S., and so whenever an athlete won a medal, I would arrange their media tour for them and take them around to the different media outlets. And we did it because we wanted to have some semblance of order around the athletes going to different media members. So the British team, because the games were in London, invited me to be a part of their crew, which was fantastic. But now I'm working for an international organization, obviously, with the British being an American, so you've got that hurdle. But it was just fantastic to be able to, again, work with athletes who quite frankly could or couldn't accept you, but it was nice of them to accept me. But there was one moment in particular with a runner. His name is Mo Farah. He was running the 5,000 meters, I believe, and the place is just going crazy because they're anticipating him winning, and he's coming around, and you're not quite sure if he's going to do it, and you're just getting into it, and I got caught up, and you're just yelling and screaming with the entire crowd. Well, Mo ends up finishing and going across the line, so that was emotional enough. But then you see this little girl out on the track. She's like 10, and she's out on the track, and you could tell the security didn't know what to do, and they were kind of like trying to figure her out, and she's kind of trying to run around different people, and the media are all around Mo Farah, and finally, I'm watching this, and finally he sees her, and it's his daughter, and he runs up, and she runs up, and they have this embrace. Again, I'm just a blubbering idiot at that point, just seeing that, but then his wife, who's 8 months pregnant, comes waddling across the track. I mean, the whole thing was just quite spectacular. But that, and there wasn't a dry eye who watched that. And that's the power of this movement on an athletic side. But even more powerful, I felt, was the things that I got to do outside of that, and the connections that I got to make with people. I mentioned that I was in Olympia, Greece, and I was part of a couple programs, and I oversaw the United States Olympic education programs. And so my first interaction with the International Olympic Academy, which is basically where the in Olympia, where the games actually originated, across the street is this academy that sleeps probably 200 people. And we would come from all over the world, and we would go there and we would talk about the Olympic movement and what the Olympic movement could do, and the power of it for good. Each of us from different countries, but what you got is really a chance to meet and spend time with individuals from another country, totally different culture, in this environment that was safe. And the power of seeing someone from Israel sit down next to someone from Saudi Arabia, and you're just having a conversation, or just all these different countries where conflicts exist. This was also the place where I met one of my dearest friends in the world, who's a woman from Iran. Her name is Naghmeh. And Naghmeh and I met there and have been friends since that time, and that was back in 2001, all these years. But just the notion of you hear what our countries are going through, and to be able to have that kind of connection. And it's a connection that, quite frankly, I'm able to share with my kids. I've got 3 kids. And when we talk about war, and we talk about the notion of, hey, we're going to go bomb this country or that sort of thing, especially a few years back when we talked a lot about Iran, I would talk a lot about that. There's someone that that you've met there, and so we can't be flippant or callous about just thinking about what that means and what the impact is, and the importance of that. I was fortunate to continue on, and I got my master's internationally through a program in sports organization management, but there were 35 of us selected from around the world. And this is my second piece of show and tell, because this is something that I cherish, and these are all of my classmates. As we've got our awards in it was in Lausanne, Switzerland, and to have the opportunity to sit with these individuals and to learn from them, to hear and to have discussions with a Sunni and a Shia and a Jewish man about, okay, why is the conflict exist? Why is that? From their perspective, really offered a lot of insight, but more importantly, it showed that we could have a reasonable conversation. And then it's our countries that really in the leadership is where we're being failed to a great degree. But it's up to us to try to make that change. So I left the Olympic movement, but I didn't leave the international call. I joined our Rotary Club here in Denver, Club 31, which is one of the oldest Rotary clubs in the world, really, and when I joined the club, knowing that Rotary has this international reach, we were asked as a group of new members to come up with some sort of program that we thought we could put forth in the club, and the club would offer some financial some money to pay for this program. And so we all submitted different things, and the thing that I submitted was what was eventually accepted was the Collegiate International Student Engagement Program. And this particular program, the premise of it was that we developed was that international students who were coming over to the United States and into Denver, and I work at the University of Denver, so at the University of Denver in particular, that they are coming over and they pretty much are staying to themselves, and we've got a lot of students from China on our campus, but kind of clumped together and are staying to themselves. And we as Rotarians, we say that we're a global force for good, and we have an opportunity to engage these young men and women. And so what we did as a club was created an opportunity for the international students to come down to our club lunch. And we had 50 students come down and had different Rotarians host them. And then throughout the year, we had receptions at like a basketball game at the University of Denver, where we invite the international students and the Rotarians. And the point being was twofold. Was one is to let these young men and women know that there are people in town that are willing to help, and they're there to help them. Number one. Number two, these are also the individuals who, quite frankly, own businesses and things of that sort. Well, I should say there was three things. And the third thing is, because these young men and women were engaged in Rotary, what we had hoped as part of the program is that they would then leave after graduating, if they were going to go back, and form Rotary clubs in their own country. And I know that China was one place that Rotary hasn't really expanded, except for expats that have clubs there. So with so many Chinese students at DU, this was a real opportunity to engage them. And in fact, I think two of them ended up joining Club 31 and staying here in the States and becoming Rotarians. So that's a big part of why I do what I do. And then, now with this club, and having a conversation with Steve and knowing what this club is trying to do, it just seemed to me that, boy, it'd be great. And what I hope is that I'm able to use perhaps some of the connections that I've developed throughout the world with individuals who I've known to perhaps come and join us if they're a good fit for what we're trying to do. But knowing that through my master's program, there were individuals that were really trying to tackle some critical issues in their own countries. For instance, there was one gentleman, Clement, who was, I think he was from Luceto, but in his focus for his master's was about being able to figure out how to change the opinion that young ladies shouldn't participate in sport. It was very male dominated, and he wanted to change the perception of young ladies being able to participate in sport, and that was his focus. And so there are many individuals trying to do different things like that to engage in their countries. And then, in my case, it was about expanding our Olympic Academy in the United States. So that's where this love for Rotary now comes from, and the hopes that I have here. And I'll end with a saying that I try to live by, and especially as we talk about peace. And the poem's called Peace, and it goes: if there's righteousness in the heart, there'll be beauty in the character. And if there's beauty in the character, there'll be harmony in the home. And if there's harmony in the home, there'll be order in the nation. And if there's order in the nation, there'll be peace in the world. So peace starts with the individual, and hopefully that's what we're all trying to
do. What a beautiful way to finish your We Rotarian number talk, Jeff. And if you just post that in the chat, because I think we need to really hold on to that thought, and having it in writing will help us remember that. Okay, let's just take a few questions. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and feel free to inquire of Jeff. Again, how many years have you been a Rotarian, Jeff?
Now it's the fourth year.
Fantastic, great. Super.
Jeff, this is Eric, and I just want to thank you for a wonderful talk. That was inspiring. It was heartwarming. It was beautiful. It was terrific. Just fabulous. Thank you. Just thank you. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, Jamil, welcome. Do you have any questions for Jeff? So involved with the Olympic movement, and as we all know, ultimately the Olympics are about world peace. And since that's what makes your heart beat, perhaps you have a question for Jeff.
No, I'd say hello to everybody. I'm sorry I was late getting here, but but no, that was a wonderful talk. I mean, I've never uh, really heard the inside view of somebody who's been involved in the Olympic movement. So that was a treat, and it's nice to have you with us.
Well, thank you very much, and I will say, that inside view. My wife was able to join me, and my daughter were able to come to London, and I think she thought that I was going to these games and I was just on vacation each time I went. So, the fact that she didn't get to see me very much, it was a good thing. So, yeah, I don't think she would have let me go back again.
I too would like to say, Jeff, thank you so much. It was truly inspiring to hear you, and I just feel like I have a lot to learn from you, and I just hope that we can put some of your wisdom and experience into our club, because it's just very inspiring to me. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to also introduce you, Jeff, to another member who is with us through audio only tonight. And this is Genesis. This is Dr. Eddie Lim in Honolulu. Eddie, would you like to say hello to everyone? Eddie? Let's see. Oh, sorry. Looks like the call has just dropped. So while I'm bringing that connection back up, Jeff, I was wondering if you had given some thought to how we might apply that collegiate international student program through a virtual means. In other words, we wouldn't be able to gather students in real time in one place, but could you imagine some way of an international application, especially technology, to accomplish what your goal was with that?
Yeah, one of the things that we found, or at least that we thought that would be beneficial to the students. Obviously, they're here in the States and they're studying in specific fields. And so what we tried to do, as well as when the students would sign up and were interested in being a part of the program, we would ask them, well, what field are you looking to go into? And then they would say accounting or whatever. And then what we would do is we would try to get a Rotarian who was in the accounting field to link with that student. So having them, basically talking the same language and being able to offer some guidance. So the person becomes, and it's not so much as a mentor, but it had the possibility of creating that relationship, which we thought would be a little bit less forced than just two people who don't really share any sort of common interest. We knew that the students, and it proved true, were very keen on the connection just from a networking perspective. They wanted to meet these Rotarians, as part of the networking piece, and it was great for the Rotarians as well, because it was like, well, we want to engage with these young people. So if I were to say how I would see that growing is opening it up to different universities to have the opportunity to, especially as our group grows, to engage with us individually in the Skype type call.
Fantastic. Super. Thanks so much, Jeff. And Eddie, are you back on call now? Hi, Eddie. Please introduce yourself, and then I'll invite you to also share a little bit about the project that you are proposing as a spin-off of Myanmar.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Eddie Lim. I'm heading the medical mission together with other Rotarians to Myanmar. That is, we're going to the western recently there was a young woman who her husband was a small hotel owner, and her father-in-law had a stroke. And she was pregnant recently, and she and her husband had decided that they want to abort the child because they cannot handle the business and also taking care of her father-in-law. So she took some kind of medicine, and so it got burned in the stomach. And so she was sent from Rahu, which is a rural area in a small little town with a small little hospital. Since they cannot handle it, they send it to the bigger, larger district hospital, that is district hospital. In the district hospital, they try to save her life, but unfortunately, they cannot make it. So she passed away. And the people there are asking, they heard about our mission coming to so they are asking help, whether we would do the birth control measure project also. I spoke to one of the GYN from New Zealand who is coming along with us to the mission, and her suggestion was to put intrauterine device. That was the best method to do birth control measure. So that's what we're trying to establish. She said she can take care of about 25 patients a day. So it's spending about 3 days in Rakhine, then altogether maybe about 75 patients, and we can do it. But there are, according to Timmy from Myanmar side, there will be more than 1,000 women waiting for us
Wow.
to have a political measure. I'm not sure how we're going to handle this problem.
My goodness. Well, so that presents for us a very interesting opportunity. And perhaps, Eric, are you with us still?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, Eric, are you with us? I'm not sure if Eric was.
Yes, I am. I had to unmute myself.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
So, Eddie, when Steve presented this idea, the idea is that, of course, there is going to be some funding necessary to accomplish this. Can you say something about that?
I cannot hear that well.
There will be a cost to do this project. Have you worked out a budget for it so we know what it would take to do this additional project?
I don't know the cost of this project. I'm still inquiring how much it will cost, whether it will be cheaper to buy in Myanmar, and that's what I'm working for it. Because not only do we insert intrauterine device, we need to have speculum, ultrasound, ultrasound, etc. All those little gadgets, and finally we can insert that intrauterine device for the birth control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly. I'm asking Timmy to look for the prices there.
Okay. Okay. Eric, we have only 4 minutes left. So, Eric, if you could just very briefly kind of your at this point, and then we will Go ahead, Eric.
So you froze,
Very brief.
Pat, you froze on me, and I
Yes.
heard, Eric, if you could, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. If you could just suggest what Steve had asked you to talk about regarding crowdsourcing.
Oh, crowdfunding, yes. So given that we have humanitarian charitable missions, and there's a number of, I guess virtual might be the word to use, but the opportunity exists to use crowdfunding platforms. For example, a site perhaps you might have heard of called GoFundMe.com. I think it's .com. And there's many others out there that specialize where you have a compelling mission that you're performing that you can solicit and seek donations for in support of that project or whatever it is you're trying to do. Many individuals will use the site GoFundMe. In my sense, it appears to be more of an individual type of a site as opposed to organizational. But basically, they'll say, "Look, I'm trying to get to do this great thing, and I need support for travel cost or whatever the case may be," and they basically put something together on the website, and people can donate through that website. There's many other websites that are dedicated to what's called crowdfunding that we can use, and Myanmar is an excellent, perfect example, to where we can go back and and say, look, we've done this stuff in the past. Here's what we're doing now. Here's the budget. Here's what we need, and basically go out in the virtual world and using our social networks and social media channels and other channels, be able to get a little bit of money from a lot of people, which can add up pretty quickly. And so I think that's a very viable course. To really, I feel, for us to successfully execute that, we really have to get someone in our membership to step up and who's very web savvy and knows how to put videos together for the web that can broadcast nicely over the web. Can put together information. It'd probably be a committee and a team of people to make it not too much of a burden on any one person. But we certainly need somebody who knows how to do that work and go onto these websites and craft and design a compelling visual message over a website to solicit crowdfunding support. Kat,
Thanks,
I
Eric.
lost you on audio. Okay, there you are.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me now, Eric?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we do have a member, Andrea Lowe, who is the founder of Piggybacker, which is a crowdfunding. Eddie, would you like to speak with Andrea about this idea that you have and see if we were thinking about doing 3 test projects to see if using her site would yield sufficient funding for projects for We Rotary at different levels. Would you be willing to be on a call with me and Andrea to discuss your project and how we might set it up to do a test of crowdsourced funding for your project? Okay, super. Great. You and I will discuss that offline then. All right, the hour is up, everyone. So really quickly, just one word, one new thing. Let's go ahead and start with Miss Flooding over here, Elaine. So please check out one new thing that you connected with tonight. You're on mute, Elaine.
Sorry. I am inspired on a global level to connect more fully with many more international people.
Super. Thank you so much. Eric, one new connection tonight.
Momentum. I feel a shift in our club's momentum, and it's exciting, and it's gratifying to be part of it.
Fantastic. Jamil, you're still on mute. Jamil, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, well, I sort of like what Eric just said about feeling like there's some momentum going. I think that, and I had a email correspondence with Andrea last week about using crowdsourcing for our project, and that was productive. And but it's a challenge. I mean, it's not like you can just sort of like uh, do it. There's a lot of work to do to prepare for it, to maintain it, and if you're going to do it with one of those sites like Kickstarter that has a very tight deadline, um, it's a major commitment. But anyway, it's exciting.
Fantastic, Jamil. I'm really happy that you and Andrea have connected. And so perhaps all four of us, you, Andrea, Eddie, and myself, can go on and see if we can develop a strategy that to not only test this, but gather some funding for your projects. Are you willing? Jamil?
To do what exactly?
So we can put together a template so we can test to see if crowdsourced funding for your project would be successful.
Sure. Yeah, I would love that.
Super. Okay, Jeffrey, you're still on mute. One new thing you connected with tonight.
I think the word I would use is power. I mean, just to hear what the members of this club are doing is powerful and so needed. So power is what I'd say.
Fantastic. John Steelquist.
Oh, I think I would continue to use the word Rotary. I think the networking that we have here and the strength we have from all the things behind us. I'm glad to see Jeffrey with more Rotary experience. I think that's going to help us a lot.
Fantastic. Genesis.
So one thing I learned today was, or actually I was really kind of inspired to hear is Jeff's comment about kind of the connection between education, athletics, and international relations. And it's kind of seems like it's becoming an ongoing thing that's happening quite often, and a lot of programs that I know international are also kind of adopting the same theme and idea as well, which is really great.
Fantastic. Thanks, Genesis. Eddie, would you like to check out one new connection?
Eddie, he's seeing the patient, but he's gone already.
All right, and
So sorry about the crisis left.
wonderful. Well, it's wonderful to speak with you, and we look forward to meeting you in Honolulu next May, when we Rotary hopes to have our first annual in-person meeting. So.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and I will be in touch with Eddie regarding the funding project that we had tonight. Night. So thanks everyone. Great meeting. I do feel like we are making some forward progress. We're getting some really interesting ideas. I want to mention to you that we do have Basha Irlan's art auction will be October 18th and 19th in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So if you have anyone who is interested in modern environmental art, really beautiful books. We'll be getting a flyer together for that. The Rotary Club in Albuquerque is going to be helping partner with us and do some of the logistics for that. So we're learning how to work with other clubs through distance to do fundraising. So we'll be reporting back to you on success of that. Until 2 weeks from now, Genesis, can you tell us really quickly who our next speaker is? Or perhaps Elaine, you could. Elaine, are you still there?
Elaine's
She's
on
on
mute.
mute.
Elaine, I think
Yes.
you're on. There we go.
Yes, it's Galena from
Okay.
Houston.
Okay.
That's our next speaker.
Okay, that's what's on the schedule. And did you happen to get an email from me asking if she could move that to another time?
Maybe I did.
Okay.
Okay. So your question was to talk with her about moving that?
Yes, I think she has a conflict that day.
Oh.
So
And
in the
who is
email,
taking her place?
I sent to you, there are some suggestions.
Okay, good. I will follow up with that. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And so do you think my house in La is underwater too? At PGA West?
Oh, I know the people who were here today said they were servicing people in PGA West too. So La Quinta was the hardest hit community.
Okay.
So you better be in touch with him.
Thank you very much. I will.
Yes. Okay.
All right, everyone.
Yeah.
Until 2 weeks from now, it will be a mystery speaker, but I'm sure if it's anything like Jeff Howard was tonight, it'll be a not-to-miss experience. So have a great couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.